As the U.S. grapples with two wars in Ukraine and now in the Middle East, it's closing the curtain on another bitter conflict from the past, with President Biden recently visiting Vietnam to boost diplomatic and economic ties. But the shadow of the Vietnam War still lingers over the two countries, nearly 5 decades after that conflict ended. ABC's Selina Wang traveled with the president and has this story.
Hanoi is a city in perpetual motion. But nestled within it are peaceful nooks like this one. But among the peace, next to this elementary school, stands a reminder of war and America's violence. This downed B-52 bomber from the Vietnam War preserved in the middle of a lake. It was part of an American bombing campaign on December 27, 1972, that killed more than 1,000 Vietnamese civilians.
We saw the bombing every day. We saw the people dying.
Like so many in Vietnam, Nguyen Thanh Nam fled to the countryside to try and seek refuge from the war. But his father's family remained in a city in North Vietnam that faced aggressive American bombing.
How many of your father's family members died because of the war?
Two-thirds.
Did your father have a lot of hatred towards the Americans?
Difficult to say. At least he never told me about that.
Americans were involved in 8 years of the 2-decade-long Vietnam War that lasted until 1975, killing more than 1 million Vietnamese and losing tens of thousands of Americans. Now, 48 years after the end of the war, Vietnam is upgrading America to its highest diplomatic status. The two countries, once enemies, now boosting ties in business, technology, and education. President Biden visiting the nation's communist leaders last month, cementing the stunning reversal. Former foes now joining hands in the face of shared threats from China.
What are your feelings about this tighter bond now between the U.S. and Vietnam?
I very much would like to say, to hear, something from President Biden, that he was sorry for what happened, But nobody say it, and still I think it's unfair.
Do you think America is a reliable partner?
You never know what happened tomorrow. So we have to learn to rely on yourself.
After the war, Nam studied mathematics in Moscow, a close ally of Hanoi, but returned to find his country in shambles.
After the war, Vietnam left totally alone.
Nam paved his own way, co-founding the largest information tech company in Vietnam, then later starting an online education platform called Phoenix. It's inspired, he says, by the ability of the Vietnamese people to pick themselves up.
There's never a dull moment in Hanoi. It is a city constantly in motion, and it reflects the complex and rich history here. Right behind me is a centuries-old Vietnamese gate, and then nearby it, you can see remnants of French colonialism, like with this old building architecture. And sandwiched between all of that, there are these noodle stalls, sidewalk beer stores, banh mi restaurants. It's never boring here.
Now its people are charging forward with a new identity. Linh Nguyen is one of thousands of students who took courses on Nam's education platform, Phoenix. She completed enough computer science courses online to graduate college in just 2 years. And her self-learning goes beyond coding.
So how did you learn English in school?
I watch many movies. I love movies. My favorite is Jackie Chan.
It's Jackie Chan.
She's never left the country, but she's taking a leap, planning to move to Texas in a few years to finish her master's degree in data science.
How long do you want to stay in America for?
I think I will live there, but when I get older, I will come back to Vietnam because I love my country.
Are you going to put it on Instagram?
Linh is part of a new generation of Vietnamese who have capitalist ideals, despite growing up in a communist nation.
Why do you want to come to America?
I think the country has many opportunities for me, so I can make money and travel the world.
Vietnam is a place of paradoxes. Under the giant statue of communist revolutionary Vladimir Lenin, you'll find a new generation zigging and zagging, embodying that American influence. This 21-year-old tells me he just likes to skateboard here and doesn't pay much attention to the looming Lenin statue, but he was watching Biden's visit.
không kiểu quan tâm về mảng chính trị hay nhà nước nhiều, nhưng mà em nghĩ là Joe Biden đến thăm Việt Nam là một sự kiện lịch sử.
While we were filming, this grandfather and his 3 grandchildren wander over to us.
What do you think of President Biden?
Okay, number one.
Really?
Number one.
Like every person we spoke to, he also had a war story.
Were you in Hanoi during the Vietnam War? Where were you?
Có ở Hà Nội.
Yes, I
Hà Nội xong rồi con đi sơ tán ở quê.
And do you think your grandchildren are going to have a better life than you did?
Chắc chắn là tốt hơn vì quan hệ với gọi là American.
A brighter future, but older generations like Nam's don't want the memory of Vietnam's suffering and endurance to disappear. And he wears a daily reminder of that, his rubber sandals. During the war, the guerrilla Viet Cong forces who battled Americans and South Vietnamese turned discarded tires from army trucks into sandals that could withstand the tough jungle terrain. Nam introduces us to his friend who owns the rubber sandal store, a former IT worker himself.
Đôi dép này là một cái đôi dép lịch sử và nó gắn liền với cả cái lịch sử của Việt Nam.
Even though he was born after the war, he wants to preserve the symbol of Vietnam's resourcefulness in the face of adversity. That resilience and grit driving Vietnam's future and its relationship with the world.
Our thanks to Selina Wang for that.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.